Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be giving a reading of my Steam guide. How to get better at demoknight. Demoknight is a difficult class to learn, so today I'm going to teach you the basics. Number 1. Trimping. Trimping is a difficult to learn technique, but once you get it down, it makes movement and tricks as demoknight a breeze. A good trimping spot is the spawn rock on Dagrid Keep, which can be used to go all the way up towards the battlements of the castle. Especially useful for getting to the final control point quicker, other things can keep... Oh. Another thing to keep in mind when trimping is to use a very specific loadout. Specifically the Tide Turner and the Clay Moor. Another very good idea is to use the Bootlegger and the Alibaba's Wee Booties. Number 2. Crit timing. While charging, it is vital to understand timing on when the crit is to be hit. It is not simply a crit to be used randomly. There are 3 main components: the charge ending, the crit itself, and the class you're playing against. First of all, you need to be aware of the charge ending, which can get you killed for not being fast enough to escape an enemy. Second, the crit can be wasted if you aren't good with the timing on when to hit it. So, it would be better to follow a large, slow target like a heavy or another demo. And finally, the class you're fighting. Once again, a good choice is large targets, so you have a higher chance of actually hitting them. And to contrast this, the worst classes to fight are Engineer and Pyro. The Engineer sentries can make demoknights useless, due to melees not being effective against sentries, along with the Pyros having Air Blast, which can stop charges immediately. Made a typo there, sorry. And Pyro's long sweeping attacks can stop a demo who can't get close. Number 3, the longest part, sword choices. A main piece of demoknight's effectiveness is his swords, which all have different effects depending on which one you choose. Number 1, the Eyelander. A prime choice for every demoknight if you know how to use it, though I personally prefer a different sword. And its main function is taking heads, which after taking enough can make you very powerful. After only 5 heads collected, you become faster than the Scout. Though the downside is also a big deal breaker, a whole minus 25% max health. The Clay Moor, which is my personal favorite, and is also very useful. The main function of this sword is restoring charge meters after kills, along with giving a small boost in charge time. Is a very useful asset in situations where you need to escape quickly, and is paired perfectly with the Tide Turner, making trimping much easier, and charging long distances of hazardous environments. And the downside of the sword is only a true downside if you're hit, being an increase in damage vulnerability. The Hafsatachi, which is shared with Soldier, and is also a very interesting weapon, to say the least. Its upsides are a very useful asset, being gaining max health on kill, but also having a glaring downside unless you're planning on playing exclusively demoknight or soldier, due to the downside being taking 50 damage after switching off of the weapon to use another, which usually to a dedicated demoknight is not an issue. Another very interesting detail is if you're fighting someone else using the Zatachi, it is a one-hit kill no matter how much health you have, so it's a very useful asset in game modes such as times 100 and times 1000. The Persian Persuader, which is also a good choice to contrast the Clay Moor. With having more charges, the Persian Persuader, which is also a good choice to contrast the Clay Moor, with having more charges instead of longer charges. It is the item that shows the most commitment to demoknight, removing 80% of your primary and secondary ammo. The main reason it is known as the contrast to the Claymore is because it refills 20% of your charge meter on hit instead of on kill. This weapon is paired best with the Splendid Screen or the Tide Turner, with the Splendid Screen having more impact damage and the Tide Turner making it easier to get around. Number 5. The Scotsman's Skullcutter, which is often universally hated for being too overpowered, but if used by an experienced Demoknight, can be greatly more powerful than a Demoknight simply swinging it about, barely hitting once. There are only two main stats, the downside being a not very large issue, being a slight decrease in running speed, and the upside being so much more powerful, being an increase in damage. There is another glaring detail that makes people hate it more, which almost no one notices. The fact that opposed to the rest of the swords, random crits are active on the Skullcutter. And basically everyone agrees random critical hits are not a good feature, rewarding luck. The Skullcutter is more useful in situations where instead of escape, raw damage is the key to fight, like when you're being ganged up on. The Ulipool Caber, which this might not be referred to as a sword, but it is used by Demoknight to instead create a subclass of a subclass called Caber Knight. All I can truly say about Caber Knight is that it is useful for getting rid of crowds of enemies, charging forward and exploding the whole group. Not much else can be said because I've not used the Caber very much. Shields. 4. Shields. Shields are the other key component to Demoknight, allowing him to charge forward and critical hit the enemy in front of them. But all shields are different, and are all useful in different ways. They are utilities with almost no downsides. Now let's see them. The Splendid Screen, which is a shield that prioritizes charging, and gives small resistances to fire, blast damage, along with a massive increase in impact damage, and a medium increase in charge recharge rate. A decent shield for bashing foes. The Charge and Targe. A shield that gives Demoknight a massive increase in fire and blast damage resistance. Not blast damage resistance, I messed up again. But not much else. An overall good shield for resisting damages from pyros, demos, and soldiers. Not very useful against most other classes. The Tide Turner, which is my personal favorite shield, made for getting away quickly in rocky terrain. It's best paired with either the Claymore or the Persian Persuader, making so that if you get a kill with the Claymore, it fully recharges your charge meter, making it theoretically possible to charge indefinitely, if you get enough kills quick enough. I hope this guide was useful in your learning of Demoknight. I hope you enjoy. Ciao.